Hi, I'm Shreya Krishnan. I'm the Managing Director for anitaB.org here in India, and here we're speaking to an incredible lineup of guests at Let's Take Charge. Let's Take Charge is a podcast that focuses on the stories of people and the resilience of the stories that they hold within them that actually helps change and transformation. Of the many people that I've had to host on the many episodes, today we have Jacintha Jayachandran, somebody who's very dear to our hearts because of the work that she's done, not only with anitaB in the past, but also the incredible body of work that she's invested her life in. We'll hear a little bit more in a while. Our guest for today is Jacintha Jayachandran. 3 decades and more of incredible work that spans human resources, learning and development, impact and core impact, because her transition from the corporate career to actually supporting women and women-led organizations and women in leadership to actually bringing her interest and focus to young girls. Jacintha is somebody who believes in catch them young and watch them grow, and that's her life's work that shows up as a reflection at HopeWorks Foundation. We will have her speak to us more about it. Welcome, Jacintha.
Oh, Shreya, thank you so much. It's such a delight to meet you, and congratulations. I can't be prouder, and happier.
Jassi, one of the first things that I want to tell our audience is about how we know each other and what we've done together, because that is something that not a lot of people know.
Absolutely.
And HopeWorks Foundation, of course, the kind of work that you've managed to do right from the time it started as this idea in your head, I think right from the time we met.
Yeah, I think so. I think we discussed it.
Yeah.
We said we are catching the problem of women empowerment a little too late in life when we work with women, right? I thought it's important that we go and start shaping the mindset, the belief system very, very young. And I think that was one of the reasons why we even wrote the book, right? Because we said we shape everything, not just the ecosystem. We shape the way the girl speaks, the way she listens and what she listens to, and how she can create her own world. I think from there to where I am today, I think it's been a natural progression, Shreya.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, Jacintha and I had the honor of writing Words Matter. Words Matter is a book that focuses on 40 words and how they mean different things to different genders. Jessie, you tell the story so well. You should tell the story.
So I think in so many ways, Shreya, you and I today, I think, represent what we believe is the privileged class, right? But I can speak for myself, and you know this. I came from what I think was a low middle class, very typical South Indian family, and I know the language that you use can be very disempowering. And in working with girls, right, we started this, I think, in 2020. Even the book came out in 2020. I remember sitting down on the floor of a government-aided school and asking kids in 8th grade as to, what do you want to become? Which seems like a very normal question to ask. And one of them said, I don't know. And I said, wow, okay. I said, why? And she said, I don't know, because my mother's a maid in most houses, and she comes from a slum where her aunts and everybody else who surround her are doing what we believe is work that doesn't necessarily give you dignity. And she didn't know if that's where it's going to stop for her too, even though she was being educated in a school. Yet another girl spoke about, I don't know what I can become, but if I were fair, I will become like Trisha the actor. I said, why should you be fair to become an actor? You have to be good at acting. That's when I realized you have to break this mold, that I have to be fair to be an actor. I have to be something to deserve something. Whereas I think as a human being, when you're born, you're deserving of everything that is bright, beautiful, and fantastic that this universe can offer. And it's not denied to you, first because you're a girl, second because you're maybe of a certain color, or maybe because you belong to a certain economic strata. I said none of these things are really barriers. I wanted the girls to believe. That's when I called you, I think one early morning, a ridiculous time to call somebody and say we should be writing a book on the language you need to speak. The language you need to speak should reflect that you are a person deserving of everything in this world. And nobody is doing any charity when they give you good education, they give you respect, they give you dignity, they welcome you into spaces. They are not doing you a favor, they are just giving you what you truly deserve. And I think that's where Words Matter came. And I said, girls need to start using a language that I think will make the world realize they are ready to take on more than what you are ready to give them. And I think if we change that, I think we are in for a big change.
Yeah, and when I think back about how we had spent time understanding the landscape for women and how it was so skewed, and you're so right about our privilege, right? We got to work in the spaces we worked with. You worked in Infosys for a long time.
Yeah.
You had the privilege of working in that kind of an environment, and you tell such beautiful stories about your work there. And when we sort of started working in that space of understanding why are there so many barriers for women, I remember our conversations around what can we change, and I think somewhere along the way we realized that the change when you're already in your 40s is so hard to sort of instill. So can we go further backwards and catch them where these ideas and notions get steeped in?
Correct.
So yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
I was traveling in Tamil Nadu villages the past 3 days. In one of the villages, which is so small, there are only 40 families, if I'm correct with the numbers, tribals. In Tamil, we call them Parankudiyinar, which means the ancient people who walked this part of the world. Because of that, of course, they get isolated, remember?
Of course.
Yeah. And there is a little school, Shreya. And that's a school that we feel we should be able to support. The first time I visited the school was last November. And I realized there's one small classroom, 1st to 4th standard, all kids in the same classroom. Okay. Boys and girls. And then we go and we see what else is there. There's no toilet. There's no washroom. And I heard that the teachers who come there and are deployed by the government to go and teach do not continue there because there's no washroom for the teachers. You expect a lady teacher to come and join, but there's no washroom for her. She's expected to sort of walk into the, the forests around. So I believe no teacher stays there. And there's this one teacher now, he stayed there and he said, I'm going to make a difference here. That's how we ended up going there. This week we went back with material to just help set up a toilet over there. But what caught my eye first thing in the morning when I land there is that there are 3 girls sweeping this, the veranda of the school. And there are a lot of boys and they're all just standing, and there are other girls who are standing with them too. So I realized how quickly we make the roles and responsibilities also gender based, right?
Yeah.
The boys were more willing to help my husband and the current teacher sort of carry the weight of all the material, but they wouldn't pick up a broom and sweep, at least not in front of me. There were 3 girls sweeping, and I said, this starts very early in life as to the work that you can do, a work that is worthy of a man and a work that only a woman must do. And if these notions need to change, I was very impressed that apparently the Kerala government has now introduced books for learning in which the father is also doing some chores in the kitchen.
Yeah.
I think it's so exciting. Maybe the rest of the country needs to catch up.
I completely agree, and I keep saying this, right? Who decided that cleaning was gender-based? These are all life skills. How did we assign life skills to certain genders? Keeping a house clean, cooking food for a hungry stomach. We all have stomachs,
Correct.
right? The glamour of having chefs in a kitchen belongs to the male fraternity, whereas the de-glamorized everyday khane mein kya banega?
Correct.
Is resting with the women, right?
Absolutely.
So this cue is so conditional and it's so ingrained in our systems that just to understand that it's a bias in itself is going to take so long, or to at least articulate that bias.
Hugely. And I think, like I always say, Shreya, women are also both, I think, the victims as well as, I think, the torchbearers of many of these biases.
Yeah.
Right? So if I were to say, I'm not cooking today, we're going to buy, and I know how my elders in my own home, which includes my mother, would look at me and say, you're not doing what you're supposed to, right? But if my husband were to say, of course, he doesn't cook, that's a different issue altogether. And I'm glad for that, because I don't think he's such a great cook. But if he were the guy who asked for some rest from doing what I otherwise do, I think it would be more willingly granted. The wish would be granted. But my wish would be granted, hopefully. Otherwise, I'm perfectly capable of granting my own wish. But I would be made to feel guilty for having granted that wish to myself. And I think that makes the whole equation, I think, so difficult to choose. And therefore, I think we sort of remain within those boundaries which, have been put. Or we've just naturally adopted to these boundaries, and we don't seem to like the feeling of negotiating with those boundaries.
Yeah, which is what brings me to the idea of saying that if you can bring policy changes in corporations, it's great, it's good to have. But unless this changes, it's the same people coming into those boardrooms.
Oh, yeah.
Right? They're carrying the same biases. The perception of roles is still the same. The stigma continues to stay. Our own personalized narratives of that stigma continues to stay. And when you see, like you said, torchbearers, a lot of women sort of resource in the power of patriarchy.
Correct.
As the, mother,
Yes.
as the
Yes.
sister, as the mother-in-law, they all seem to find the joy of being able to, oh, I am powerless, but this man in my life has access to power. So let me navigate towards that, or gravitate towards that power. And it's so unconscious.
It is. And we're also people who love status quo, right? If you're to change the way these things need to change, you're disturbing status quo. And changing that, I think, is very disconcerting for most people. You change the rules of the game, then you don't know if you fit in anymore, right? Because these rules you've sort of adopted and you've thrived in it probably, or didn't realize you were not thriving, whatever be it. But you are now unconsciously subscribing to these rules. And then the rules are changing either by somebody who comes and says, I'm going to do this differently. Your notions of what is right and wrong, what helps me to navigate this world is now suddenly shifting. And that makes it very uncomfortable. Change is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And what we are talking is whole scale change. And I think that that's very difficult, very difficult. But I will not use the word impossible, because I think if we strive together, I think that day is not going to be too far into the horizon. I do believe it is far.
Yeah. Which brings me now, because you spoke about change, and that's the work that you've been doing now for a while, and it's inspiring to see, because I also get to come and meet the students and the girls that are part of the ecosystem. It's so enriching as an experience to just be there and to watch them learn and to watch them be themselves, the naughty ones being naughty, the ones that are absorbing it all being that way. Yeah. Sort of to be in that classroom is so empowering for me. So yours is a story of taking charge. You took charge, right? Tell us how HopeWorks happened. I know the story, but I'd love for everybody listening to know how it happened and how it started with the pandemic. It started way before, but how the whole thing came together and what HopeWorks does.
Shreya, the way I'd like to answer your question is, you do reach those phases in life when you want to sort of reimagine your life. 49 years, I think, is a great time to reimagine your life. And that's the number I had hit in the chronological age in 2019. I had also a body of work in which I had made a lot of discoveries, especially in the body of work with women. For over 15 years now, we've been speaking about diversity, equity, inclusion, justice, belongingness. We've been speaking about it. But you go back and look at data. How many women have made it into the boardrooms? How many women are still aspiring to go there, but something seems to stop them? You have to figure out, what is it? That's when I said maybe there is time to sort of do it very early in life, so that it's not something that you're going to be either afraid or feel like it's too big a challenge, but you're just going to go there and take it like a natural progression. Like, it has to sound seamless in the way you go into boardrooms. Why should it be like one big thing you're prepped for? You have to be identified and all of those things. And I think some of that also meant that we probably have to give this mindset of personal leadership even before professional leadership. And I know they're not too distinct, but I think there is a boundary that you have to sort of, really, really traverse through. That's when I said I need to go back and work with children. My training is in social work. And I think I've had a natural affinity to work with causes. I said, maybe this is the time to do this, right? Just drop everything, go. And I remember just going into the school, sitting down with the principal of the school where I had studied, which is a government aided school, speaking to the principal and asking her, what can I do? In corporates, we use the language of selling, which is what all I can do, right? Impact is a place where you have to ask, what can I do? Is there something that I can do? Because your wisdom alone is not sufficient. And frankly, I don't think we have all the wisdom. And the principal was amazing. This nun, who's been in the education sector for so long, looked me in the eye, and then she said, did you really pass out from this school? I said, of course. And she said, that car there is yours? I said, yes. And she said, how did you get there? And I actually didn't have an answer at that point in time. And then she said, Jacintha, I teach my girls subjects. Can you teach my girls hope? And I was stumped. Shreya, I had been an entrepreneur by then for about 10 years.
Yeah.
You're selling every minute of every day something or the other which you think is a solution. And then I had no answers to what a phenomenal human asked me, can you teach someone hope? And then she made that statement. She said, that's the difference between what I can teach them and where they can go, but don't seem to have hope. Can you plug that gap? I said, I have no idea. I don't know if I can teach hope. I don't know if there is a way to teach hope, but I will figure this out. So I bought time. I said, sister, let me go back and look at this. So I dropped everything else, looked at 3 months of researching on hope. Then I spoke to Professor Rick Miller, 35, 40 years of just working in this thing called hope. And all of us see it like a 4-letter word, right? And I said, yeah, it's much more than that. So we had this call on a Friday night. I remember he lives in the US. And we were speaking. At the end of an hour, we were both crying because I realized one of the big life skills is to be able to think hopefully, to have the language of hope and be able to practice it. To be a hope practitioner means you're going to be a problem solver by virtue of this wiring inside you. I said, how? And then I asked him, can this be taught? He said, of course. He said, it can be taught, it can be role modeled. There are multiple ways in which you can do this. If they can learn every other skill, why not a way of thinking, believing, feeling, acting that is hopeful? And that's where I said, I want to do this. And I started working with girls. I remember March 2020 is where we registered the foundation. We called it HopeWorks Foundation. And then 8 days later came COVID, like literally throwing it on my face to say, let me see if you can make hope work during this time. It was like a challenge that you didn't expect to happen, but it did. And then I started seeing visuals of the laborers walking on the streets, barefoot, hungry. And I said, I've got to do something about it. So, and you know that. I just walked out, started serving food, which I cooked at home. Started with, I think, about 15, 20 packets. Then it went to about 30. Then it went to 50. Then it went to 75. And I knew I didn't have utensils or stuff beyond that. Now I said, I got to do something more. That's when I started reaching out to a lot of other friends. And one of the largest foundations in India heard about us, said, would you like to do this? And we would support you. And I remember sitting and writing a proposal. I had no logo for my foundation. I had no bank account. My bank account opening forms were in quarantine. Okay. And I'm thinking, how am I even going to receive this money? But it taught me the power of collaboration. So we came together, 3, 4 of us, NGO founders. We said, we can do this. And when the rest of the world, out of fear, shut itself inside the doors, and rightly so, I'm not judging it. We were out on the streets because we thought we could do this, right? When I look back, would I do it again? I think yes. It doesn't matter. And we got 60 volunteers packing groceries, shipping it across Bangalore into communities of laborers who had no one to call their own in this beautiful city. And I'm so proud of that effort, not because of what it did, but I think you just took care of a very basic need called hunger, and an even bigger basic need called belongingness. To that laborer, right? And I want to tell you the story of this young man called Asbab, who had come from Bihar, and he had landed, and that day the lockdown was announced. He had phone charge for a day. That's it. He called up everybody and said, I can't come back. He was dumped in Koramangala in one of the construction sites, and then he didn't meet anybody other than who others were there in that construction site. So that was one of the construction sites where we would go and give food. After about 5 days, he took this leadership position. He said, and you know, he's never gone to any of our colleges, institutions, studied leadership, strategy, management, nothing. He just said, I think you're taking a risk in coming here every day and giving us food. And then, people have to wait in a queue. You're meeting about 300 laborers who are walking up to you. Instead, give it to us in bags. We will distribute it. We are anyway exposed to each other. Just imagine the responsiveness. And then after another few days, he said, you know what, I have to at least say a thank you to you. I said, no, it doesn't matter. He says, no, it matters to me that I have to say a thank you to you. So he said, sit in the car. And then he went further away, stood under a tree, and sang this lovely song, which he had written in fantastic Hindi. I said, wow, you're such a good singer. He said, yeah. So once the COVID died, the first phase, he said, I want to come to your house. I said, you're welcome to. He came home. He sat and he sang again on my sofa. And I can't tell you what a joyous experience it was. And then he very politely asked me, "Aap Akshay Kumar ko jante ho?" I said, Akshay Kumar ko kaun nahi janta? I mean, everybody knows Akshay Kumar, but I don't think Akshay Kumar knows me. So he said, no, you reach out to him, you write to him, and say here's a singer and a songwriter who's very good, and I'm sure he'll give me a chance. I said, buddy, I know I practice hope, but I'm like a very nascent practitioner, and that still sounds very far-fetched to me. But the guy just wouldn't take a no for an answer, Shreya. He looked at me again. He said, "Aap Narendra Modi ko jante hain?" I said, "Bhai, everybody knows him. like really everybody knows him. He is the Prime Minister." He said, "Yeah, but if you tell him to contact Akshay Kumar, he'll contact Akshay Kumar, and Akshay Kumar will definitely give me a chance." He was relentless, and I discovered hope makes you relentless in the pursuit of what you want to do. And I asked him, "Bhaiya, kyun karna chahte ho? Why do you want to do this?" Right? And he said something, Shreya, that will stay with me for the rest of my life. He said, "Madam ji, main kalakar hoon, mazdoor nahi." And it shook me, it's just like the sentence that sister asked me, can you teach them hope? He had discovered who he is. To me, that is leadership. And I want every one of my girls to discover, yes, you could be working somewhere, you could be doing something, but there's something that's deep inside you. You are wired to be that. Like he said, I am wired to be a singer, right? And I'd like to make that my career, if it were possible, but I'd still work, right? I will. To me, the idea of setting up HopeWorks Foundation was help girls go and see deep inside them what resides, that ability to do something that's not constrained by what the world is telling this is appropriate for you, right? Or this is what you're supposed to do. You discover it, you figure it out, and you go ahead. Now, if we are able to make that possible for the girls, especially those who are socially isolated, economically under-resourced, educationally underserved, I think that's a mission worth living for. And I think that's exactly what I discovered.
Yeah. Jacintha, you really, it mind boggles me. You didn't say also that you started with those 75 meals and that movement became 14,000 meals across the country.
Yes, and
you leave out this very, all these very, very
yes,
powerful, potent pieces of information
Yep.
because you're so, I think that's the magic of having worked with you, because to you, I think you really see the power in the storytelling.
Oh yeah, the numbers matter, I agree with you, right? One person's hunger sorted out is as big as sorting out, I think, the 14 lakh meal support that we were able to give, both in phase 1 and in phase 2. But the numbers come to meaning only when you realize even that one person feeling hungry. I remember one lady calling me up, and she was a construction worker, and she said, I don't have money to buy milk anymore, but my child is hungry. And the child is about 1.5 years. Could you send some milk? So I remember quickly reaching out to all our people and saying, I just need to buy milk tins and supply. And I can't tell you how beautifully the city came together, By afternoon, I had milk tins, and by evening, it was delivered. And night, she calls me up and she says, my child has stopped crying. I can't tell you, it may have been just 5 tins of milk powder. As a number, it's not great, but that one child not crying that night, I think is important. So both are equally important. The numbers were mind-boggling even for us because we didn't set out to do this. I just wanted to do it in my vicinity, and I was hoping that everybody would do it in their vicinity. It's just that I think people recognized what you were trying to do, and then it just became bigger and bigger and bigger. 70 volunteers working in 3 shifts in a Kalyan Mandap, which we just went and asked and said, please give us, because we can't store the groceries anywhere else. And just doing all this packing and shipping and running, it was beyond brilliant, Shreya. It was beyond brilliant. In phase 2, of course, some of our volunteers undertook the effort of burying unclaimed bodies. You know the tragedy that was there.
Yeah.
And I would wonder what makes these young people go out there and do it. And I think the lesson was simple. I think we're all human. We forget that. And we give space for our own humanity to come to life when you're in crisis. And I think that's what it showed. But other times, you're not exposed to the needs, the crying needs and the crisis that exists in this universe. No matter you travel in cars, you live in big houses, you're shut off from what looks gruesome, because poverty is gruesome. And I don't think, we're sort of insulating ourselves, and that worries me a little, that we are insulating. We are not seeing the slums in Bangalore, the condition in which the children live. It's quite incredible. We were pushing out standard messages like mask pehno, wash your hands. I know the slum where the family had 2 masks and they would hang it on the door. Anybody who goes out wears that mask. 2 masks. The water comes once in 2 days. Where do you have the time to wash your hands like? So we didn't even think about what else, right?
Yeah.
What more? How do we do this and make everyone safe, not just you and me safe? That requires that we go out, really, really go and see what exists beyond where we live. We need to make that effort. We need to go and see the gruesomeness of it and not believe what we see or what is said. I think that's how we are going to be human. That's how a young man I know would just wear, a PPE kit and go there and bury bodies. Even the family members were not there very often, but he was there. He was there. And their stories are very powerful. It's not whether he buried 1,000 people. He buried one body with dignity. And that matters. I think people need to see it. It's these people who held us up during COVID. And I think it should be people like us who hold up the universe, not just for the girl child, but for everyone who has needs which I think they themselves are constrained they can't fulfill. Like that mother who called up and said, my child is crying, what do I do? I don't have a job, I don't have money, I don't have milk. Someone's got to respond. Those days they knew they could call somebody. I hope we don't have to wait for COVID for a needy person to call us out. I think we should go and see what the need is.
Yeah. Which brings me, you spoke about mothers, which brings me to Mothers and Daughters of Hope.
Yes.
And for Hope,
Yeah.
which is the latest HopeWorks Foundation mandate.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that, because I think that's as empowering as any of the other stories.
So we started working with girls, and there are girls who complete 12th grade, have the dreams, not the means to go to a college, though they deserve to. I can tell you so much because they're such brilliant kids, okay? They're not children waiting for you to give them a dole, right? They're waiting there because they're so good. And we realized first just giving them access to education is a good thing. Then we realized they're so malnourished that half the time, I don't think they can even listen in a classroom. So we said, we've got to do something about it. So I know we can't do a lot right now, Shreya, but at least on the days we meet them, which is every Sunday, we make sure they get 2 meals a day. You know, that day they get something nourishing, something filling. So make sure that's the second part, right? The third part we realize is it's not just their lack of digital literacy, right? And that gap itself is very huge. And if you're talking AI and everything, where will these kids land up even with an education? Plus, their education doesn't permit them to think as broadly as we do. You know, our children have laptops and access to internet and everything else the children don't have. So we ensure that we are able to give them what I think is mind shifting, mind, expansion, broaden that horizon of thinking. Because a child thinks the buck stops with becoming a maid, right? And if I don't like it, I don't know what else is available to today say, I want to become an IAS officer, ma'am. You know, that to me is where you're pushing that boundary. And I think the fourth one is menstrual hygiene. You and I know about it. It is so difficult for girls to go to schools where you have no toilets and then you have periods on top of it. What do? So we make sure every girl child gets a packet of pads every month. Okay. The next one we do is every child gets a mentor, because the girls lack role models with whom they can talk. Like you, if they talk to you, they'll say, Shreya ma'am, you tell me, right? Remember? They always come to you and then they say, your skin is beautiful, your hair is this thing. You know, it starts there.
Yeah.
But over a period of time, they realize, what makes Shreya ma'am tick? You know, why does she look so confident? When they start having those conversations with you is where they are going to say, hey, you know what? I can also think like that, right?
And there are some of them who have, I've seen,
Absolutely.
right, over the last 3 years.
Absolutely.
I remember Amulya,
Correct.
all these young girls coming up to me in awe.
Yeah.
And today they'll come and say, Shreya ma'am.
Yeah,
what's up?"
exactly.
You know, just the
Exactly.
way they engage with me,
Absolutely.
I know that their transition
Absolutely.
is complete.
Yes. And the last one we discovered, Shreya, is that their mothers have to become their allies. I'm not as worried about male allyship as much as I'm worried about mothers becoming their allies, because that's comfort in your home, right? So we asked a lot of our girls. Like I told you, we don't have enough wisdom to solve their problems. We can at best ask them. When we said, what more can we do? They said, ma'am, you have to train our mothers. I said, train your mothers? They said, yeah. They have to start thinking differently, because it would help them and it would also help us. That's where we did the pilot batch of a program called Mojo, which is a mother's journey to hope last year. 27 women. We, in our wisdom, said, okay, this and this, right? Financial literacy, emotional resilience, personal confidence, and being able to start your own businesses. So we had about a couple of modules from Swayam Shakti to how do you everything. I'm impressed, Shreya. The mothers, the ones who didn't have work, which they had lost during COVID, also lost their confidence along with employment. Said, ma'am, I'll go back to work. Even if it's that of a maid, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back and start working. And about 7 of them said, I want to become an entrepreneur. I said, okay, what does that mean? I'll start something on my own. So today we have 7 women who have put their own presentations together. We are connecting them with micro investors, okay, to start their own businesses. One of them came to meet me last week. She hasn't yet found an investor, but she took a loan, bought an auto. She's learnt auto driving, and she takes women and girls around. And she said, all women need to feel safe, and I know in my auto they feel very safe. I said, wow. And she starts her work like 6 o'clock in the morning, ferrying women, children to schools, workplaces, back. And she says, I'm not going to do anything else. I said, why auto driver? She says, because I think the idea of mobility makes me feel so empowered. Then she comes around 11 to 2, she takes a break because nobody is going to office at that time, remember?
Yeah.
No school is opening at that time. So she said 11 to 2, I do my tailoring. 2 o'clock, I go back to pick up the schools from the children. Then evening, I ply the auto because I know there are women waiting to go back in safe. Yeah? And to me, that's what a mother, a woman is capable of. Now, imagine unleashing this, not just with 27 women, but across all the mothers of our girls. We have impacted 503 girls through this one program called Hope Citizen, where we give them scholarship and the other 7 keys of hope, as I call it. But I think one of the biggest keys is empowering their mothers. And this year, therefore, we said we're going to go beyond the daughters and also take care of the daughter who resides inside the mother. And we said mother and daughter empowerment made with hope. And that's why we called it Made with Hope. We just said, 1, it sounds nice. 2, it resonates with what we want to do. Because the driving force behind HopeWorks Foundation is that last little girl anywhere in the universe feeling hopeless will feel hope because of you and me. And there is a girl existing inside our mothers. And that's what we wanted to unleash. So it's not a girl because, you know, up to 18 you're a girl and then you're a woman. I think there's a little girl inside you and me too.
Absolutely.
Who needs nurturing, who needs safety, who needs protection, who needs love, unconditional hugs. You'll be amazed. Every time I meet the mothers, you know I'm a big hugger, right?
Yeah.
Just like you are. So I went and hugged them and they stood like this, Shreya, like this. And then I said, hey, you're supposed to hug me back. Today they'll come. They said, ma'am, one hug. One hug. And then you see, there is the little girl who needs a hug. Because she wants to feel like she's precious, that she is safe. And that's why I think Made with Hope is the masthead of our programmatic interventions as far as HopeWorks Foundation is concerned. And that's how we came up with it. And I'm very happy, I'm very proud of what we are doing, what we are trying to do. And if I talk of the daughters, I know that's not part of your question, but I'm going to say this. In the villages that we went, of course, you know, like many villages in India, very backward, of course. 3 girls, Shreya, we gave them scholarships. Those are sets of villages where child marriage was rampant. One of our partner organizations called Child Voice works there extensively to ensure there are no child marriages. But we still didn't have any hope that these kids will, once they clear, what will their families do remains a big question, right? Because honestly, there are no great work opportunities around. So they don't think there's need to invest in something if I can't work. But I was so impressed that I go to this village Saturday evening around 7 and I meet 3 girls. One of them has joined BTech in computer science. One has joined BSc computer science and one is joining Bachelor of Business Administration. The 3 things that stood out for me in this village and in these 3 girls is that they come from backgrounds where they are typically not allowed to go outside of their village. Like the school is there till 12th grade, be there. You know, beyond that is not something that they would consider. One is going into the next town now, which is going to take a 2-hour journey one way by bus to be able to attend college and come back. So imagine the power of education, the power of mobility, that they can go and come and be safe. I think it's so important. The second one is that one of the children, she has no parents, lives with her grandmother and a feisty old woman. And she says, I'm going to go to hostel, ma'am. I said, okay. And then the grandmother tells me, you know, surrounding my relatives and family members, they all just want this girl to get married because they think I can't take care of her. I'm going to send her to the hostel so that she can stay there and study. I said, how about you? You're going to be alone. She says, what's going to happen to me? I'm old. I'm ready to die, but I'm not going to do that till I see this girl qualified and educated to be able to stand on her own feet. And she says, otherwise, what's the point of me having raised her so far? Meeting that grandmother, right? So it's not just daughters and mothers. Even the grandmothers today get so inspired to see their girls suddenly saying, I want to become this. I want to become an engineer. And I was asking the girls, so once you finish your engineering degree, where are you going to go and work? She says, ma'am, I'll go to Chennai. I'll go to Madurai. I'll go to any of these places and I'm going to find a job that's good enough for my education. I'm not going to sit around in this village. So for me, this is transformative work to involve generations in solving a crisis that we have inherited through generations, and a crisis that has been created by generations of not being able to think beyond boundaries. If we can make people, whether it's a grandmother, a grandfather, and anybody at all, to think beyond those boundaries, I think we've achieved what we set out to achieve. To me, that is the joy of doing what I do.
Yeah, and that reminds me of every single time, every single pivot that has come in your life and how you've just flown into it, you know. We're called Let's Take Charge, but your story has been let's flow into taking charge. And to have been a fly on the wall on so many of those, to watch the girls that we worked with when we started, to see them, what they're doing now, to be interviewing, you know, it's amazing to see them sit across and run interview shows of, you know, leaders and their confidence is so inspiring. So I have to say, working with Hope is seeming so beautifully poetic in all ways possible.
It is. It's been very transformative for me, Shreya, that I know no fear now. 2020 was the year where I could have been fearful, but I said no. Either we practice what I'm learning. I'm still a student of Hope, and you're trying to practice this every day, and I can tell you, you know no fear. You can be justifiably guarded, but you don't have to become anxious. You don't have to say, oh, can I do this? Because if you try it, you can. If you knock on enough doors, they'll open. If you reach out, you can latch on to something that's very powerful. So I think it gives you the license to move ahead. And therefore, I want many more people to be able to see it, not as a stressful journey of transformation, but it's easy, you know, you're just flowing, you're moving.
And then you take 75 meals into 14 lakh meals.
That's it, you know.
It
just happens. 8 girls, now we have 503. You know our mission, 1 million girls marching into college. But I'm saying now make 1 million mothers financially resilient. Your goals only increase. Your effort actually becomes easier because that many people see the change and then they want to become change agents themselves, right?
Yes.
Like my girl, Amulya, last year came and gave us money to educate another girl child. So it happens. It happens. One good thing leads to another good thing, just as a bad thing leads to another bad thing. So we might as well do a little bit of good, and I think it has exponential potential, absolutely, to transform this universe.
Yeah, and you know, when people ask us, Anita B, you know, what do you plan to do? What do you plan to achieve? You spoke about 3 young girls in 3 villages choosing computer science, choosing technology.
Yeah.
I think we see that as our conduit to hope that in the future, AI will have more women as it's being built. You know, learning will have more women as it's being crafted. Innovation will have more women, non-binary people at the table so that it's more inclusive. So we're very happy to be partnering with HopeWorks Foundation. It's just so joyful for us to be able to extend scholarships to the girls and to be able to work, because if you look at it, each one of these is an inspiring story for any of us struggling, any of us thinking about our choices, women or non-binary people struggling with the chaos of their lives for some reason that's crafted. So thank you for this incredible work that you're doing, and thank you for collaborating with us.
Thank you so much. I'm so looking forward to the partnership, because I think it'll bring the world to the doorstep, and that's our attempt, right?
Yeah.
Light goes like this inside a space that only gives it that much permission, but the minute it goes, it lights the whole world. That's how I see hope. We have to shape it to enter every village, every nook and corner, and then I know it'll just spread. It'll make the whole place look more beautiful. And every partnership, whether it's Anita B or any of those things, I think will help us sort of get in there where some darkness of lack of hope resides, and be able to spread some light there. Thank you.
Okay, so yes, this is the journey, and from the way I know of you, I know that you see this as just the start, just the tip of the iceberg, because we do have that 1 million number of being able to reach. And for us here, we're planning on looking at STEM roles for young girls and non-binary children, like you said, for them to have access to even look at what a laptop looks like, or they may all have phones, but for them to be able to access STEM learning in a much more methodical way, it's something we really want to invest in.
Yeah.
And I know HopeWorks is working in so many smaller tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 towns, villages, so for us to be able to reach there. And that's the collaboration I'm looking forward to. But what are you excited about? What are the future plans that you're looking for? What is it that?
So we started with 1 center in Bangalore, right? And now we are in 6. 24, 25, I think we're going to do about 10 centers. Right now we are more south. We may head northeast this year and to Mumbai. But you must remember the groups with which we work are very distinct, very unique. In Bangalore, we support girls who have all come from Manipur, and we know what's happening in Manipur.
Yes.
So but the beauty of it is, they're from Manipur, they've settled in Bangalore. I know they may not like the sambar rice that we are serving, but they're just thriving. They see an opportunity for themselves. 65% of our students currently on the Scholarship Plus program, the Hope Citizen program, are STEM students. And we want to ensure that every child who has taken this stream is able to see the potential in terms of employment, in terms of earning, in terms of growth, more than anything else, that you can become anything that you sort of choose to become. That, I think, is extremely important. Navya was one of our youngest, entrants into the program. She came, she joined us, completed her engineering, and today is working as a software engineer on AI. And the day she said, "Ma'am, now I work on AI," I can't tell you how delighted you feel. And that's exactly what you want to do for a whole bunch of other kids, whether it's AI, Gen AI, and maybe 5 years from now, it's something else, I don't know. But I want them in the forefront. They should be defining the frontiers, Shreya, and they can. It's just the lack of, 1, opportunities, 2, I think somebody who can actually sit and talk to them and say, "Hey, that's not the frontier, there's something beyond that, or that's not, something beyond that." And I hope HopeWorks can go global, because poverty exists everywhere. And it's not just economic poverty. I always say women are stuck down by multiple dimensions of poverty: social, economic, and education, medical, even more important, gender.
Yeah.
Because there are many things. Oh, poor woman should go out of any kind of conversation. There is no poor woman, even if she is economically not, oh, poor thing, you got a girl, oh, poor, no. I'm saying a woman is 50% of this universe, and she better take her, her place in the universe. So I think that's where I am. How can you make this into a global movement? That last little girl in the universe. Not that I know everything about AI. I don't think anybody does. But if our girls get an opportunity to start learning about it right now, that it can be truly transformative, change the way the world works probably, I think it's well worth the investment, Shreya. That's really what we want to try. Because I think the way I'm hearing about it, it's going to probably change everything, right? Not just in the world of science and technology and engineering and math, but way beyond that, the way we live our lives. I keep thinking we were the products of a generation that had to sort of leapfrog into IT, right? I hadn't seen a laptop till I came to work. And then I was suddenly sending emails and I was wondering what on earth this is. I think that kind of tectonic shift is likely to happen from what people tell.
Yeah.
And if that's going to happen, I want our girls to be natural adopters of it, not frightened by it. And I think that is where we need all the help. And Anita Borg, I think, has been at the forefront of it. If you could help us and this partnership can flourish, we take it everywhere. Whether it's Africa, whether it's somewhere else, it shouldn't matter at all. Hope, and I think AI, STEM, they're all truly to make life better. That's the mission any which ways of anybody who really wants to see what we can do on this earth. Beyond living and having our own families, etc., etc., I think this is a worthy cause to go after.
I think it absolutely is, and consider it done. At least
Thank
I
you.
do, because I see the work being so beautifully interconnected together anyway. So looking forward to our collaboration, looking forward to having all of the girls at the Grace Hopper celebration, which is happening in November in India. Looking forward to working on the STEM education that we can take to all of these smaller towns and sort of get them excited about. And our volunteers are putting together the curriculum. So it's lovely to see, because these are young women who are actually working in tech, who are putting together the curriculum for the younger women to sort of, you know, get exposed. So we're really excited about the project.
I'm very excited. Just listening to this is very exciting, because we have girls representing 64 different villages going through our programs. So it can't be for children in the cities. You have to go down to a village called Aparakudi, which even Google did not recognize when I tried traveling there a month ago. A girl in Aparakudi should know what is AI. That should be where we are going. And that's what I think we should make possible, Shreya.
I actually have goose flesh right now, because it steals your purpose, right? It steals it into the ground, and it reminds you of the work that we still need to do.
Absolutely.
If Aparakudi is one such knot on the Google map, imagine the many, many, many such and the many, many girls. We do hold up half the sky. It's time we start making room for ourselves to ensure that we own it.
Completely.
Yeah.
Completely. I think it's important. Aparakudi should experience it. Amma Patti should experience it. Because I think that's where they don't know the potential, right, of themselves. And they don't know what changes are coming, which means you're going to create even further distancing of people, from the privileged ones.
Yeah.
And I think to integrate this and make it one universe, we need education going to the remotest corners, and education that truly makes you ready for life, ready for the world. And I think that should be our attempt.
On that note, forging a lovely little path of hope for both of us together, to continue to do the work that HopeWorks has been doing so incredibly, and Anita B has been doing so incredibly, to forge this partnership to make sure that we live by the hope that we carry within ourselves.
Thank you so much. More power to you.
Thank you, Jacintha. More power to you. Thank you so much for joining us here today, for sharing your stories, for sharing the powerful stories of those girls we've watched up growing. And it's just been just another reminder of why this work is so important.
Oh yes, I agree. Thank you so much for having me here, Shreya.
Thank you, Jessie. Okay, you go.
Just plug in Let's Take Charge anywhere and just...
You go. You already have this in your mind. You go, then I'll close.
What should I start with?
Whatever you want.
Perfect.
The only time I made you speak to camera.
I know. Folks, it's been an incredible journey speaking today with Shreya Krishnan from Anita Borg. Let's Take Charge is not a podcast. It's the way we are supposed to live life. So I'm inviting you on behalf of all my girls, all the mothers, and every girl child on this universe to watch and share not just this episode, but the message of Let's Take Charge. But because if we don't, who else is? And if we don't take charge now, then when will we? Thank you for watching us.
That just wrapped up the most energizing and pushing you forward conversation with Jacintha Jayachandran. And we want you to like, share, and subscribe, not because this is a story that everybody needs to hear, but this is the fear that everybody needs to eliminate from their lives. If we can do it, anybody can do it. And that's the magic that we want to spread. Spreading hope, spreading love, spreading joy, spreading action as a means to change the way we see the world. Thank you for watching.